Hey everybody. I was varnishing some paintings this week and I thought that'd be a good kind of lesson to go over and how to do it. And in starting the tradition of varnishing paintings, it's to basically protect the painting, right, from smoke and environmental things, as well as allow the painting to shine. Some of that color, it enhances the color, brings some of the color into the shadows. So the tradition goes back a long way. The catch is the original Kamar varnish will yellow over time. It not only hardens to a point where it can have problems being cleaned as well. So that old way of using Kamar varnish just has kind of gone the way of history. It's not a good way archivally to varnish. So some of the modern companies are making some different types of varnish. A great one from Gamblin is this one called Gamvar. Okay, and Gamvar, you can buy it in a container like this, which is fine. Some of the purists think that even the shelf life of this sitting on a shelf before you purchase it causes the chemicals to kind of break down and not be as pure. So you actually can buy Gamvar in a crystallized form. I can't remember which chemical you add to it, but you actually mix up the crystals yourself right then and there, so that there are no breakdown of the varnish over time. It's an immediate thing. I'm going to sample this small sketch I did in the field just to show you how it works and how to varnish and the tools to use. I also use, which I've reverted to, is this spray, and it's called Kamar varnish. This is a retouch, actually. There's several companies like Gamvar and some of the others that are making an archival non-Kamar spray that you can spray, months after the painting's dry. The advantage of Kamar is it can be used as a retouch and a finish. I found this through Carolyn Anderson, who's quite brilliant. She went to a lot of the museums and whatnot, restorators, and asked them what they would do, and that's their choice was this Kamar varnish. So I like it because I can use it as a retouch, a light touch when I go into a dry painting to kind of glossen things up, or I can use it as a final varnish. The catch is if you're using it while a painting is still wet, say there's certain areas of a painting that's wet, and you're using the retouch. The problem is if you spray it too heavily, your ridges kind of in the paint, paint has little ridges from the brush marks. Those will kind of disintegrate, almost like they're going to become sticky and dissolve. So you have to be really careful if the painting is still damp. That's why I usually don't use it until the painting's at least dry to the touch for that retouch. And usually you usually only need it when that kind of wet gloss is gone. So anyway, those are things that I use. The Kamar, I'll do a sample outside here on another painting, but I just wanted to show you the two different ways so you can kind of make a choice. You can always go on and do some research of your own as well. So what I do is I basically use a very soft brush. There's several brushes. I've used watercolor mops before. I just happen to find these cheap watercolor wash brushes that are very, very soft. And the reason is when you want to run the painting, the varnish over the painting, you don't want the brush to be heavy enough to leave streaks. You want that varnish to go over it really smooth. So just find a synthetic, or even, like I said, a watercolor mop, or another kind of maybe a squirrel hair brush that's very soft that you can use. I use just a tiny bit. You can see I put it in this little container, so whatever I don't use I can always pour back in, because a little bit goes a long way. When applying it, you want to make sure the surface stays wet as you work it. So if you're on a large painting, you work it in sections, right? Say this is a larger, say 18 by 24. I would square it off, work this wet area, get it nice and smooth, and work the next area, and on through the whole painting. And you want to make sure you cover it very well. So the idea is to dip it in here, right? I'm gonna have to hold the painting around this camera, so bear with me. You basically want to put it on, okay, and just try to keep it nice and smooth in your strokes, and you'll see it kind of bubbles up, okay, and I'll roll some more here, and those bubbles are just kind of air catching underneath the varnish when you're kind of rolling over some of the areas that are thicker in paint. Okay, so I'll cover it, and then I will smoothly brush it back and forth. And sometimes if the bubbles hang on, notice I'm not even holding the brush. I'm just kind of letting it fall across the surface. And when I do that, it just allows those bubbles to disintegrate. I'm not using any pressure, okay? The goal is, though, is to just make sure you get a nice, clean coverage. So then I'll let that set, maybe you can put it out in the sun. Outside usually it'll dry the touch quick, but I won't touch it usually for at least a half hour or so. Let it set up. And you can see already how much those darks, look at all the color that starts showing up in the painting that was not there when we had it dry and kind of flat. I'll actually pick the painting up just so you can see it a little better maybe. There's no glare. But it starts to pull in some of those colors, and that's what we want. We want that color to show up in those darks when it's hanging on a wall. Okay, so that's kind of that process. Very simple and an easy way to go about it. The spray is just as easy. In fact, I find it easier. Some people get a little worried about, maybe it's hurting the ozone, but I figure it's small enough it's not affecting anything when I'm doing small paintings. And I'll go ahead and walk out and I'll set up my tripod and we'll run over that as well. Okay. Okay guys, here I am set up outside. And before I jump into this, I just wanted to let you know that on the cleanup that I forgot to mention for the Gamvar is pretty simple. I just use the brush, clean it off in my Gamsol or a mineral spirit. I also put a little mineral spirit on a paper towel and wipe out that cup so that it's cleaned up. It's pretty simple and easy cleanup. You'll see on this, here on the lawn, I have a kind of a board I put down. It's just an overspray board so I don't get my grass dirty with paint and whatnot. The catch is when I put this down, just make sure you don't, if you can, don't spray with the actual painting on the board, because when you do that, you're going to get overspray or dust kicking up off the board. You'll see that I kind of hold it up in my hand when I spray. The thing you want to do is you'll see the nozzle here. You want to point that obviously away from your face. But the point is I try to work away from me, okay? You can do it two ways. You can work from bottom up. If you do that, you got to make sure that you're spraying kind of where you left off on the previous sweep, okay? Because otherwise you'll get wet and dry marks. Sometimes on a larger painting, I'll work with the spray facing away from me, I'll work top to bottom so that any spray that's coming out is actually running into what I've already put down. So I'm always staying a wet into wet spray as I move down the painting, pointing away from me. This is a small enough painting, I don't have to worry about that. I can kind of work from front to back, sweeping right to left. And when you sweep, you don't want to just go in and go like this. You want to run right to left smoothly from side to side beyond the edge of the canvas. And you want to stay about maybe I stay about 10 inches or so away from the panel. And it's better to do a couple light sweeps than to overcoat it and be too thick. Okay, so I've already kind of shaken the can up. I'll give it a little more shake. And I'm also going to, before I do this blow off, or use the side of my arm to kind of make sure things are clear. And then I'll hold it so it's kind of away from my arm like this. And then I'll just begin to spray. And I'll sweep it right to left. Oh, and you'll see I've already got a little bug that flew in. That's no big deal. You can take your finger and kind of, it's not going to hurt the varnish. But I'll run it back over and make sure I'm staying wet into wet as I move through the painting. Okay, and I just do this all the way up. And you'll see that it starts to bring out a lot of that color, and especially like I mentioned in the darks. Now I can let this set up. I won't set it flat. I'll try to set it up as a vertical. That way nothing or particles or things will fall into it. I'll lay it up against a wall vertically and let that dry. And then I may come back and sweep it again with a second coat if I need to, if I notice some parts aren't as glossy. I still have to actually sign this painting, so I'm going to leave it as now, sign it later, and then revarnish it again over that signature. So anyway, I hope this helps in getting things done. I find this to be such a fast and easy way to get the painting done and not have to worry about all the other chemicals and materials. Just make sure you do it outside. If you have susceptible lungs, maybe wear a mask. Anyway, I hope that helps. It should dry pretty fast. It'll dry 10-15 minutes to touch. It gets a little tacky but I always try to keep it in a dry place vertical to help it dry out. Okay, hope this helped this month. Cheers. Hi, my name is Mitch Baird, and I'm over the moon about working with you. What an opportunity. 365 days to work at your own pace, receive personal feedback, and have access to a community of growing artists. That's invaluable. Aesthetics and the art of picture making is a lifelong pursuit, full of questions and stumbling blocks, but it's also full of wisdom and rewards. In the 25 years I've been painting and teaching, I've found that there is a crucial and particular way of seeing that every artist must grasp if they want to obtain wisdom. This visual perception is so important that it will be the starting point of this course. I will share with you visual tools that will strengthen your artistic eye and that in turn will fortify your knowledge and creative abilities. There are also certain fundamentals that all artists must know and use in order to find rewards and create successful paintings. Composition is of the utmost importance, as it's the core of visual communication. I will share facets of design, arrangement, and keeping balance. Drawing will feature concepts on proportion, shape, and linear perspective, as they are the forces behind two-dimensional and three-dimensional space. The lessons on value will present insights on how to see values clearly and how the form principle affects everything in our visual field. Lastly, I will cover color, the final frontier in an artist's exploration. I will share the aspects of building a solid foundation on how to see and identify color, as well as mix it and use it with harmony. No matter your level of experience, the information shared in this course will elevate your understanding and will assist you in your search for excellence. I look forward to helping you along in your journey, as well as sharing mine with you too.